Today's guest is Daisy Harvey, founder of the Loom app, a revolutionary platform that's changing how we think about fashion and our behaviour as consumers. In a nutshell, Loom is a sustainable fashion marketplace that connects customers with designers to tailor or custom-make clothes from existing pieces, solving the problem of all the unworn clothing in your wardrobe due to bad design, fit, and quality. Daisy has worked in fashion for the entirety of her career, including for well-known brands such as TK Maxx and Burberry. In January 2020, Daisy followed her passion for sustainable fashion to create Lofter, a marketplace for sustainable fashion which has since evolved into Loom. I'm so excited to talk to Daisy, not only because of her career and the wonderful things she's doing at Loom, but because to me, Daisy demonstrates that more than one personality type can be a successful founder and entrepreneur. In a world where people relentlessly self-promote on social media, it's refreshing to find a founder like Daisy who is unfazed and carries on doing her work with an innate, quiet confidence in both herself and her vision for Loom. I have no doubt that she will make it happen. Daisy, thank you so much for being a guest on the Every Muse podcast.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. What a lovely introduction.
Oh, I was writing it and then I was like, I hope she takes it in the way that it's intended.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Of
I
course.
love that because I always, you see one personality type and I think, I'm an introvert, so I'm on the shyer side, but obviously can be an extrovert for limited periods of time.
Same.
And so when I see someone who I feel an affinity with do all of these things that I think typically the world thinks is just for extroverts or the louder people in the room, it's so reassuring for me and also just a lovely, inspiring thing to watch. So,
oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel exactly the same. I think that was something I actually struggled a lot with earlier on in my career because it felt like everyone who was successful was not the same personality type as me. So now I'm really glad that you saw that because I think it's really important that everyone feels like they can be successful, even if you're super introverted and hate going out and kind of networking or whatever you have to do.
And also people put that on. So I feel like it's probably exhausting for them.
Yes.
Having to be extroverted all the time and not just be authentically themselves because it's already hard enough doing what they do. Yeah. And then to have to worry about having a persona.
Yeah.
It's just stressful.
Yeah. You need a lot of energy to pretend to be someone else.
Yeah. And as I gotten older, I'm like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah. Oh, so how are you feeling today?
Yeah, really good, thank you.
Good. It's hot where we are.
It's very
in
hot.
London.
But you've caught me at a great time because I've just come back from holiday. So I'm feeling super refreshed and this is a lovely way to ease back into work.
I want to start by talking about your early life because I think it just informs so much of who we are. Can you tell me about your kind of formative experiences, like growing up? What were you like as a child?
Yeah. What was I like as a child? So I think I was really shy especially as a younger teenager. It's interesting because I feel like you only really know it from your perspective and it'd be interesting to ask my family.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Farnham near Surrey. Very strangely, I actually, for the first, 10 years of my life, grew up on an exotic bird park, which my dad owned.
Amazing.
Which is very strange and random.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was cool, actually. Yeah. So I grew up there, so kind of got introduced to seeing my dad running that business.
Yeah, he then peacocks,
ostriches,
amazing.
Parrots. Yeah, it was exciting,
cool.
But kind of random.
Yeah, I can imagine you knew every bird as a child.
Well, even now my friends make fun of me because if we're out somewhere, I'll be like, "Oh, look at this bird," and they're like, "Oh, here we go."
Can name them all.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then he sold that, and then he started a new business, and I used to work for him a lot of weekends, and so that was, I guess, my first insight into starting a business. I also kind of strangely went to a convent school for my secondary school, which was tiny, all girls, obviously. So I was very shy, very studious, loved kind of studying and learning. But I also wanted to be an actress when I was younger, which I think helped in a way because it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And like I wanted to go to drama school. I went to like drama school at the weekends. And even though I was incredibly shy, I think that kind of pushed me to kind of get over that and start to become a little bit more confident. So that was kind of me as a child. And then everything kind of changed when I went to university. So I went to uni to study French and English literature. Again, nothing to do with fashion, but while I was at uni, I was like, actually, I think the fashion industry is where I want to work. And so then I started interning as much as I could so I could get enough experience to get a job.
And is it hard, like breaking into the fashion industry? I can imagine it sounds quite competitive.
Yeah, it was competitive. I think I was expecting it to be competitive, and then that's why I did so many internships in different areas as well, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be in PR or sales or buying, and so I did internships in lots of different businesses to try and work out which ones I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the buying side of it, so then got onto the grad scheme for TK Maxx to do buying and merchandising. And was lucky enough to get that while I was at uni. So I guess I was really lucky in terms of like the first steps into it.
It's so interesting, isn't it? You make some decisions quite early on in life and it kind of informs everything else after that.
Yeah, exactly.
What was that experience like? So you were at TK Maxx first. Did you enjoy it? What was it like working for Big Corp?
I did enjoy it. I think because previously I'd worked at smaller companies, I did feel a little bit lost suddenly going to a massive corporate. And actually, similarly to what we were discussing earlier about personality types, I think there it did feel like the more successful people who were getting promoted weren't there was always lots of conversations about how you kind of negotiate and influence. And I think at that time, which was a long time ago, there was more of a focus on if you're really confident and you're always the first to speak, then you have more of an influence.
I think that's still the case.
In most places. And I think I did feel a bit frustrated because I was like, well, actually, I don't think it's always the people who are super loud and kind of maybe leading the conversation that do have the most influence, because you can have almost like a very gentle power and kind of guide the conversation without people even realizing, and putting ideas in here and there and that people then take on, which could be the outcome of whatever conversation or meeting that you're having. But generally, I did really enjoy my time there, and I met some amazing people that I'm still in contact with.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was just a learning curve, I think, going into like a big corporate.
What did you? So it was TK Maxx first, and then what came after TK Maxx?
So after TK Maxx was my first business.
Really?
Which you had a great pronunciation of.
Did
I normally just say Loft, to be honest, because people are like, how do I say it? So yeah.
I'm proud of myself for that, because I was like listening to you talk about it and I was like, I think there's something different here in the way that she's saying it. Okay, so I wanted so just before we move on to talk about Lofter.
Yeah.
That corporate experience, I know you said you enjoyed it, but I just wanted to ask, like, how important is it that what you're doing aligns with your own purpose? And I feel like a lot of people are looking for their purpose, so they might not have like thought about it yet.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes when you're doing something and it doesn't feel aligned with your own purpose or the vision that you might have for your life, or maybe it just doesn't feel good in your body, I think that mental health does suffer. And I've listened to you talk about how during that period it was quite difficult.
Yeah, definitely. So I think I enjoyed it in terms of, as much as I could, being in a job that wasn't aligned with my values. And it obviously depends so much on your team as well.
Yeah.
But I after a few years, I think I took the job initially because I was really excited to be offered one. And I wasn't 100% sure which direction I wanted to go in, apart from that I wanted to work in the fashion industry. So when I had this job given to me after, like a round of interviews, I was like, I feel really lucky to have been offered this. I'm going to take it. But I think I fairly quickly realized that actually it didn't really feel like the role where I could excel as who I am and that it wasn't aligned with my values. So I wasn't really enjoying going to work. It felt like I was putting a lot of effort in to try and become someone that I wasn't, in order to impress people about things that I wasn't really that bothered about.
Yeah.
So I did get quite depressed. There was also other things like happening outside. So I went through quite a bad breakup, and mentally I got into a really depressed state where I just didn't have any purpose, essentially. And I think I'd tied up my purpose in like parts of my job when I knew that wasn't right for me, in this relationship. And so then when I realized that actually none of that was me, I just felt lost, basically. And I was like, what am I meant to be doing? I've spent years at this company and I know that actually I don't really want to be doing this. Outside of that, I was also lost. So I was like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do anymore. But what it did give me is once I realized that, I could make a little bit of distance between everything that was going on and give myself some time to reflect on who did I want to be, like what was really important to me, what was I really passionate about. And so it kind of went against my values in a way, because I always want to give everything 100%, but you can't, if you're giving 100% to the wrong thing, you don't give yourself enough space to realize what you actually want to do. So although those years were really tough, I came out of it thinking, okay, I'm really passionate about sustainability. I also really love the fashion industry, and working at this big corporate isn't working for me. I've seen my dad start his own business. I'm going to try and just do that. And also, this sounds a bit not morbid, but depressive, I was like, well, I'm in such a bad way. Anything would be better than this. So I'm just going to try something. And then even if it fails, I'm sure I'll learn so much from it that at least it will guide me in the right direction of what I can do afterwards.
I relate to that so much. And I feel like in those moments when it's quite dark, or like you're basically lost, that's when you know some kind of change is coming. And so now I've like learned to fear it less.
That's a really good point, because now whenever I'm starting to feel like that, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Things change, and then great things come from that change. But I think at the time, it's just the first time you take a big risk like that, it's terrifying. And I think also I felt a lot of guilt, because I was like, well, I haven't really got anything to complain about. I've got a good job. I've got a great family who are supporting me. Like, why do I feel so low? Like, and that also kind of put me in a bit of a circle, because I was like, I don't feel like I should just, quit everything and just do whatever I want. Like, isn't that a bit selfish? But actually, once you find something that you're really passionate about and you have a lot of purpose and you're happy about, you then can give back to everyone else around you. So it's worth it.
I love that. And also when I get anxious about something now, I'm like, well, I can rebuild, and I've done it. I've built before and I can build again. And it's quite empowering in that sense, because you're like, I've actually been at the bottom before and it's fine. Like, you just start again. Yeah. And it's quite liberating.
It's definitely liberating. Yeah. And I think it just opens up so much more for you, because you realize that even if there's something you're scared of, even if it goes wrong, something better will come along. Yeah. So it's definitely a way less stressful way to live your life.
Yeah, it is. It takes the pressure off, I think, a little bit.
But sometimes I still do edge back into being like, something might set me off where it will make me feel really, really anxious. And then I'm like, okay. And then I have to catch myself and be like, okay, no, everything's going to be okay. I've been through this so many times. It's going to be fine.
I love that you're saying that, because I think it's so important for people to hear that, like, people that seemingly are doing incredible things and like have their own business and are creating apps and, changing the world, still feel this way. And it's things that you just have to do to manage, and you can live a really full, beautiful life and also have anxiety.
Yeah, definitely. And I was actually talking to a friend about this the other day, about podcasts, because I was asking for recommendations. So I'll obviously recommend yours.
Thank you.
But we were saying that sometimes when you're listening to a conversation between people, and it could be someone you really admire, if they do say that everything's great, I actually don't get that much from the conversation, because one, it kind of riles me up, because I'm like, well, I don't feel like this all the time. Like, am I doing something wrong? But also when people are really honest and they talk through things that they have struggled with, or that you know, that they are now struggling with. I find that I take so much more away from it because I almost trust them more, and I'm like, okay, this is actually really helpful for me when things aren't going so good.
100% normalizes being human.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about it, because you talk about it so openly and honestly. So thank you, Daisy.
You're welcome.
So, Lofter.
Yes.
What gave you the idea for it? And like, where did this sustainable fashion seed get planted?
Yeah. So once I'd done, you know, my kind of soul searching, and I was like, actually, I'm really passionate about sustainability. I then made a pact to myself that I would only shop from sustainable brands.
I love that.
And then I started doing research, trying to find small sustainable brands that I really loved. And I actually found it quite difficult to find them all in one place, because also I didn't have loads of time to be shopping. And so that's where the idea came from, was my personal need. I was like, oh, I found all these amazing brands. I wish that I could shop them all in one place rather than having to go through all these different tabs.
Yeah. Such a clever idea, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I mean, it's fairly simple. I was just like, I just want to create a marketplace, essentially. And that was the idea. And I think at the time I was like, I'm ready to do my own thing. This feels like it's come quite naturally to me. So I'm going to build it and see if it works.
And you did build it. And I was watching some interviews at the time, and it was incredible. Like, you were so excited about it, and there was so much traction. And then what happened?
Yeah.
What led to like...
I think essentially I built something that I wanted, but I didn't really check if anyone else wanted it, which is a major mistake.
And that was a different time, I guess, right? So this was when?
Yeah, it was 2020. So we launched in March 2020, and I'd done a crowdfunder with friends. So not an equity crowdfunder, but basically you could like buy a jumper and then you'd, that would help fund me to get it launched.
Yeah.
And so I was excited by that because it felt like people wanted it, but really it was my friends supporting me.
Yeah.
And once it launched, because we were in COVID, lots of people were looking for things, and I kind of pivoted and did loads of face masks and things like that. But there were also lots of other marketplaces out there, and I got a business loan. The startup loans, and I was like, okay, well, this is my plan. I'd been in merchandising at TK Maxx, so I was great at spreadsheets and kind of financial planning and stock inventory, all that kind of stuff. And I actually bought a load of stock initially, and quickly realized that was not a good idea, because then you're just left with all this inventory that you haven't sold. So actually, the first pivot was I changed it onto a marketplace where I was basically drop shipping, so directly connecting you with the brand. And that saved me loads of money because I didn't have to keep buying inventory. And then we pivoted more towards face masks and things like that. But it just wasn't taking off. It was it was trickling over, and like people were buying, but it wasn't enough that it was going to sustain me for a long time. I didn't really see it having loads of growth potential unless I was going to put loads of money into you know, like advertising online. And so I was like, actually, I'm gonna close it down. And we also did a pop-up. We did a couple of pop-ups ourselves, which were brilliant. And then we got offered to do a 2-month pop-up on Oxford Street for free.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. I definitely want to do this. But it was a nightmare. Like, no one was shopping in person. No one was on Oxford Street. Yeah. We had so much stolen. And although the space was free, the space was really weird. We were kind of on the first floor, so you couldn't see us from the Oxford Street itself. Yeah. And that broke me, because I also couldn't afford someone to be in there every day. So I had to be in there. Yeah. I couldn't do anything else. And at the end of that, I was like, I'm done. Yeah. So it was kind of a lot of learnings in a couple of years.
I bet.
Yeah.
So I'm exhausted listening to you, but like, you must have been. Hi, everyone. Just a short break to say thank you so much for listening to the episode. I hope you're enjoying it. If you are, please do hit the follow button. It means so much to me and really makes a difference to a new podcast like this one. Also, I would love if you could leave a rating and a review. When you're creating in a vacuum, it's not always apparent whether the episodes are resonating or not. And that's why your feedback is so important to me. It means that I can actually put out episodes that you want and will enjoy. Thanks so much. Back to the episode.
To answer your question about what is sustainability, for a sustainable brand, I think it's two main things for me would be, one, the environmental impact that it has. And I can go on about this for ages, but, so what are the fibers made from, who's made it, and sorry, that's the second part, is the people behind it as well. So you've got the environment and then also the people that are making it, and how are you supporting them, and are they fairly paid?
The thing that strikes me about that, you having to shut down Lofter, because not that it wasn't working or it wasn't a great idea, but basically because just a series of unfortunate events, that must have been heartbreaking at the time.
Yeah, it was really difficult. I think also because it was the first time that I'd publicly put myself out there in front of, it was more actually just the embarrassment.
Yeah.
Because my friends had supported me at the beginning. I'd put so much time and effort into it, really pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and it just felt like a massive failure. And it took me a while. I'm a pretty determined person, I think. So I knew that for me to get to that point, it was heartbreaking, because you're just like, oh gosh, I put so many hours into this. And it got to a point where I was like, my health is suffering now. Yeah. I don't think it's going to work. When you get that feeling in your gut, and I'd been trying to ignore it for a while. And then I was like, actually, this is too stressful. Yeah. It's not going to work. I need to just call it quits now and just restock and rebuild, and then see what happens next.
I think there's a lot of courage in that, and there's a lot of grace in knowing that this is the end of the road, Daisy. I think lots of people don't do that, and kind of keep beating a dead horse, really. So I think that actually that's something to be proud of, to know that actually it was a great experience. I learned a lot, and this is now the end of that road. But actually it wasn't, because it kind of evolved into Loom.
Well, exactly.
But while on that point, just while we're on it, I wonder if, because you hear founders talk about failing forwards, and they keep talking about you just have to keep failing, your first thing won't be a success.
Yeah.
And it's different theoretically when you hear it, but experiencing it and having that first failure and that embarrassment, as you said, and after you've put yourself out there, even talking about it makes me really, punches me in the gut a little bit. And I wonder if that's where being the kind of extroverted founder with the masculine energy is more beneficial than someone who might be more introverted and feel things more deeply and take things on, make things personal.
Yeah, potentially. I guess different personalities might deal with it in different ways. I think for me, I actually don't know if this is so linked to being introverted, but maybe it is. I am super emotional.
Same. Yeah.
So I used to worry about that, and now I actually kind of lean into it more.
Yeah, me too.
So when I made the decision to close it down, I think I was going away. I can't remember what for, but I just remember being sat on a plane, and I had the email and the Instagram post ready to go, to post it. And I was like, I'm going to post it, and then I'm going to turn my phone off for this, so that and I just remember sitting there and crying, and it was so sad. And I remember just being like, oh God. But also, it was sad, but also it was relief, because I was like, I know this is the right thing to do, and I can't keep pushing this. So I remember that moment really clearly. And for a long time, I had this this pink neon light of the logo. And I didn't throw it away, but I just kept it in storage for ages. And I was like, when I saw it, it was too painful. I was like, oh God. And then a couple of years ago, I saw it in storage again. And my fiance, Chris, was like, we should put this up on the wall. And I was like, oh, actually, that's a really nice idea. And it was a nice moment, because I was like, enough time has passed now that when I look at it, I'm actually really proud of everything that I achieved with it. I learned so much from it. Nothing that I'm doing now would have happened if I hadn't done that. And so now when I look back on it, it's with a lot of pride, and I'm really happy about it. But for a while, it was even thinking about it made me just kind of not cringed, but just it was like pure pain, and you're like, oh God, I put so much into that. So
you're reclaiming it. I love that.
Yeah, reclaiming it. And I think just having the right mindset shift about things. And when you were talking about failing forwards, I think being able to reframe stuff faster and faster and faster, still having time to like accept when something goes wrong and have some time to mourn whatever's happened. But I think building on that skill has definitely helped a lot.
I also admire you so much because a lot of people at that point would have kind of gone back to corporate and just been, this didn't work out. I tried it. I now just want a bit of stability and go back to what I know.
Yeah.
And I think it's very normal to want to retreat into what you were previously doing. And that you didn't do that though. You like forged forward and Lofter evolved into Loom.
Yeah.
What propelled you to keep going?
I think I although it had been really difficult, I had found this passion. I hadn't been depressed, basically. I'd had this purpose. And although it had ended and it had been really difficult, I actually really loved the whole process of it. And I didn't want that to go to waste.
Yeah.
I think also it is very difficult to go from having your own business to then going back to a corporate job, which I actually did, but while I was building on the side this time. So it was a little bit different. And I had this idea. So towards the end of that pop-up on Oxford Street, I had started talking to customers and realising that they did all want to shop sustainably but couldn't find the right style. And they were also, I kept having the same conversation with people like, I actually already have a wardrobe full of clothes. I want to be more sustainable and I don't really know what to do with them. And so on the side, I started connecting them to designers that I knew to get those pieces reimagined and redesigned. And so I was like, oh, I don't think there's anywhere that you can go and get this done. And so I pitched the idea to an accelerator and that they accepted the idea. And that gave me the confidence to be like, okay, someone else who has experience in this believes in this idea. I'm going to start to explore it more. So I think I was hesitant, but I'd had this idea. I'd put it out there just to see what happened. And being accepted onto that accelerator, which was called Small But Perfect, it gave me a grant. And then that's how it all started snowballing.
What is an accelerator for those that might not know?
So
including me.
Yeah. So it's basically like a program to help accelerate your business. So sometimes they look a bit different, but it's normally like a series of workshops, normally maybe over like 2 to 3 months, which help cover different areas of the business and try to get you as prepared as possible for what's coming ahead. Sometimes they come with grants, sometimes it's just workshops and mentorship, but it's basically like a crash course for your business. And normally helping to like connect you with people who might be able to help grow your business faster.
It strikes me that like having those conversations when you were building Lofter was sort of like doing market research.
Yes.
Like product market fit, like you knew that there was an audience out there.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Yes. And that's what I didn't do with Lofter. And that's why I essentially shouldn't have been built. So I would say it's great to have an idea, but you need to check that people actually also like your idea and want to pay for it. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not going to grow, which sounds so obvious. But I think sometimes it's easy to get carried away with a good idea and put everything into it and then realize too late that actually it needs to be tweaked or pivoted in some way for it to actually make money. I think when I'd made the decision to close it down, I consciously started talking to as many people as possible to understand why it went wrong, and also to try and find a new idea for something to do. And that's why I kept having those conversations. And it's so easy to test your idea, even if you're making. So, for example, with Loom, we had like a super basic website where you could just fill in a form and tell us like what you want to get upcycled, and then I'd connect you with a designer by WhatsApp for ages, just to test that actually people wanted it and they would pay for it.
Like that was the MVP.
That was the MVP. Yeah,
love that.
Yeah.
So I realize now that I haven't heard you describe Loom in your own words, which I think would be really helpful for people listening. Tell me about Loom and everything it does.
Course. So Loom is an upcycling app, and we connect you with over 100 designers to redesign your clothes. So you basically upload a photo of an item, and then we will match you with designers based on your style, your location, and what you're looking for. But you also don't have to have an idea. So you can just upload a photo, and then we'll give you ideas of what we could turn it into. So, for example, we work a lot with brides and take their wedding dress and then dye it a different colour, shorten the length, or turn it into something completely different. So we had someone recently turn her wedding dress into a zebra print bag, which is really exciting.
Which I loved.
Yeah. So yes, and our vision, we want to become the home of upcycling. So we want to become the largest community of independent designers, but also a leading fashion app. So we are sustainable, and that's why I've built it. But we want upcycling to become mainstream, and we want to do that by getting people excited about it and showing that it's like a high fashion luxury service, and trying to make that accessible for everyone.
And I've seen some of the final results, and they're incredible transformations of clothes that you wouldn't wear anymore to actual things that you would wear and are very fashionable.
And the designers are just so talented. Like the ideas that they come up with are amazing. And obviously the quality is brilliant. And there's all of these independent designers everywhere who are doing all of these upcycling things. So it's really nice for us to bring them all together and have this community and be able to support them as well. So,
How did you find the designers? And there are so many steps. We'll talk about them in a second. But like, how did you initially build like a roster of good designers to help with Loom?
So initially I'd met a few designers through doing my previous business. So they were obviously selling the goods that they had made through Lufter, but then I knew that they did custom made work on the side, and that's where I kind of got inspired for initially. So we launched with 10 designers that I had met through that, and then at the beginning I was outreaching, but also I was naturally coming across them through social media because I was following all of these brands. I would just then get targeted with more and more, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, there's so many.
And then you think it's signs from the universe, and you're like, it's the algorithm.
Exactly.
Love that.
And I think because we always put our designers first, so the platform helps them find more work, but then we also send them information about grants, pop-ups, events. So we're trying to help support them as much as we can. And we've done events just for our designers where they kind of share advice. So I think because we were doing that, then the designers were telling their friends, and word kind of grew organically, which has been really, really great. So we do partner with universities and studio spaces as well, but we actually get lots of applications from designers every week now, which is really, really exciting.
That is exciting, especially when you start to see like it organically grow. That's what any founder would want.
It's the best feeling. Yeah, it's really, really lovely.
But you mentioned that you were part of an accelerator, and I suppose that helped quite a bit with knowing what to do to set up Loom. But have there been moments where you're like, oh, I'm not sure what the next step is, or like, what do I do next? Like, how do I make this business grow?
Yes. I think there's challenges all the time. I think because I had set up a business before, I knew some of the pitfalls and some of the like I did have a rough roadmap in my mind of what I needed to do to get it launched, but the accelerator definitely helped. So for context, that one was all about circular fashion. And so it was more towards building a sustainable business rather than just business growth. But since then, I've done more, which are just about growing your business. Whenever I've got to a point where I wasn't really sure, I would look for help. And that was one of the biggest learnings actually from the previous business. I tried to do it all myself. I was really embarrassed to ask for help. And that was like the worst idea ever because I don't know everything, and it's so much better to learn from other people's mistakes. And also then they might be able to connect you to someone else who can help. So this time round, I was always asking for help, constantly reaching out for people to ask their advice, and for them to become mentors or advisors. So we had that circular fashion accelerator, small but perfect. And then I did the next big one that I did was Unrest, which was for positive impact businesses. And that was brilliant. And that was, I think, 4 months, covered all areas of the business, but it wasn't to do with being sustainable. It was about having a positive impact, but more about how do you grow a successful business. And that was really, really helpful. So then through those things, I always met advisors and experts in different areas that I could then reach out to. But there's always areas of the business that I'm like, oh, I'm not 100% sure how we're going to get to the next stage. So
you kind of just feel your way through it.
Yeah.
And work it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the moment when you were like, this works? I see this working in a way that maybe you hadn't with Lufter. Like, do you remember that with Loom?
Yeah, I think so. I was much more cautious. We had the MVP for a year before I even started building the app. And I was really open this time round to changing. So if there was anything that I was like, I wasn't so precious about my idea. I obviously still have the big vision.
Yeah.
But I was much more open to pivoting and changing and adapting how we actually get there. So I think when we had the MVP and the first order started coming through, that was really exciting. I think for me, it's actually been recently. So we launched the app in February this year. And then I actually made my first hire, Hannah, last summer to help with social media. But she's brilliant.
Yeah.
So she's actually taken over more and more of the business, and now she's managing the designers and the projects through the app. And so seeing her doing that and it running without me has been like, okay, this is amazing, because now it's working without me having to do everything. And previously it's always been me managing every single element of it.
What a good feeling.
Yeah.
And you just made monthly target.
Yes, yeah.
Congratulations.
Really exciting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's pretty much, all through without me having to do too much manually. So I was scared of like letting it go, but I've had to, just because I have to manage other areas of the business. And so that was an amazing feeling.
I bet.
And also, obviously, we have investors who share our vision and the designers share our vision. But then to have Hannah working so hard towards building it as well has been a really amazing feeling. Because previously it's always just been me on my own. So that's been really lovely.
Also, how nice to have someone so invested that they're like,
exactly,
helping move the needle.
Yeah.
So have you raised funding?
Yes.
Talk to me about that, like the whole raising funding experience.
I think that's been
sounds so painful.
That's been one of the toughest things for Loom, has been raising money, because essentially it's a tech business. So it's not the kind of business that can grow organically and then, or it could, but it would take a really, really long time. So I knew I would have to raise money from the beginning, and started, I would say, like learning how to raise money probably 2 years ago, and just made loads of mistakes. I had done like mini, courses, and was trying to learn as much as I could. But it's just so time consuming. It's basically a full-time job. And I think until you really commit to it, you never get any traction with it. Also, it's been really tough for fundraising the last few years. So the timing hasn't been great. But I was just so invested in the vision and bringing it to life. And also when you see, like, when you start to get little glimpses of success and you're like, actually, no, I really think this is going to work. I was like, I have to do this. But it was incredibly tough. It's such a weird, it's basically sales.
Yeah.
And, it's almost, there's a lot of mind games, like you're creating a lot of FOMO. And even, we've had so many awards and like nominations, and you're like, oh, this is great to share with everyone, but it's still really hard to get people to like commit financially for obvious reasons. So there was just a lot of learning, and it was like, it's really hard when you've never been in this space and you've never worked in finance. And, I couldn't do like a family and friends round because I don't have people working in the right kind of industry, earning the right kind of money to just easily, give me enough. So it was all raised through, external investors that I've met at events or through LinkedIn. And it was just tough because I had no idea like how to raise the money, like what legal documents do you need? What's the best way of doing that? And you hear all these like scary stories like, oh, you don't want a messy cap table. And I was like, what does that even mean? I don't know. And so you like overthink things. And now I've got into a really good flow of it. But initially I was like, oh God, I don't know what to do. And you learn how to pitch and how to make sure that you're sharing the information that they need, answering their questions, giving them the confidence in yourself. But it's a long journey.
I bet. And sometimes I feel like obviously you build something and you're like, it works and you have such conviction in the product itself.
Yeah.
But then in order to be able to, I guess, sell it, you've got to put yourself up for awards and you've got to marketing it correctly.
Yeah.
And actually, I guess part of me is like, well, the product itself is just so great. It should just be able to speak for itself. But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's also I think I've always been able to sell the vision of it.
Yeah.
But then it's when you're asked questions about the financial model or your marketing and your go-to-market strategy and who your ideal customer is and all of these things. It's just being able to articulate it in a way that gives people the confidence that you are the right person and you know the business inside out. And then I think the other thing that is really tough is that because founders know it's really tough, it can be really difficult where you go to events, you're meeting other founders and it's about fundraising and everyone's really negative about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the automatic reaction for founders when you ask them how fundraising is going is for them to be like, oh, it's so tough. And I think that it is really hard, but it's not impossible. And I think you need to bring that positivity to it if you can, or the right energy. Yeah. Maybe positivity is not the right word, but in order for you to give that energy to people that you're pitching to so that they want to invest in you. And I think it's really easy for people to be like, just get really down about it. And then people see that and you don't want to invest in a business so it's really hard because obviously it takes so much energy to then bring that every single time. But yeah, I feel like we need to change the narrative about it a bit, especially for female founders, because obviously it's so much harder that it's easy to go to like a female founder event and everyone be really down about it. And I'm like, no, we need to be more positive. Yeah. We can all do this.
I love that. Yeah, it's hard, but possible.
Yeah.
And also I feel like there's been a real shift when it comes to circular fashion, like obviously apps like Loom and By Rotation. So Ishita was on the podcast as well. And I learned so much from her.
Yeah.
And she was talking a lot about consumer blockers when it comes to renting clothes and how By Rotation has been able to change the mindset around renting clothes in a way that makes it both accessible and cool to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible. Like the fact that she's made it and the kinds of clothes that you can rent on By Rotation, like it's really having a moment. I definitely see Loom doing similar kinds of things when it comes to clothes upcycling. I would love to hear how you are thinking about consumer mindset when it comes to clothes upcycling, because obviously that's like a very new thing. People might not be even considering doing that. Or if sometimes I think we're just resistant to change, right?
Yeah,
like if something's new, it's too difficult. Like, I don't know how it works. I don't know if I can trust someone with my clothes like this. How are you thinking about consumer mindset?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely people are resistant to change and trying something new. And I've definitely used businesses like By Rotation as an example of how you can do that. I think people always say they want to shop more sustainably and use sustainable alternatives, but the reality is that you only invest in these things if you really love the fashion, the style, and it's at a price point that you are willing to invest in. And I feel like sustainability is always a bonus for people. So, and that was another mistake that I made with Lifter, where I was always pushing the sustainability element, but actually that's not what people really invest in. Or for the majority of people. So I think for us, we're trying to showcase the fashion side of it first. And, you can get something completely unique and tailored to you. You get to work one-on-one with the designer, which most people have never done before.
Yeah.
So at the end, you have something that not only fits you perfectly, but it's exactly how you wanted it to be. And you're never going to go to an event and someone else is wearing the same thing, which I think recently, when you go to a wedding or whatever it is, or even going into work, like sometimes, there's those items that everyone has.
Yeah.
The other really great thing about upcycling is that you get to continue the story of the item. So, sometimes people come to us with just an item that they love and they haven't thrown it away, they haven't sold it because they don't, there's something about it. So being able to update it so you continue to wear it is lovely. But also, so then you're getting a personal attachment to those clothes, right? Because you're kind of seeing the evolution of them. But even for items that already have sentimental value, it's great. So we had someone come with her father's ties that we then turned into a bag that she could continue to wear. We've had lots of people come with like family heirloom items and get those redesigned. And that's super special because then it's not an item that you then kind of hang up or, just keep, but in the attic. You can continue to use it and wear it and get that value and be reminded of that person or that memory all the time, which I think is really lovely. But yeah, changing the mindset is hard. And that's why we try to showcase, the quality of the designers, have the reviews there, showcase as many examples like the before and after in the process so that we can build that trust with our customers straight away, and showcase the process. So it's less of a unknown for them to kind of try it for the first time.
And I think working with a designer is definitely like a luxury thing, like it's a luxury service. And I remember like the first time I had a piece of clothing tailored for my body, and I'm quite petite. So like it was wearing clothing that fits you well is life-changing.
Yes.
Like having something tailored for you is such a lovely feeling when you put those clothes on because it fits like a glove, like you feel really confident when you're wearing it. I think that there is so much value even if it's not like a fully upcycled piece, but like having even tailoring through Loom is just incredible service.
Yeah, and it's so, like you say, it's you feel so much more confident in clothes that fit you correctly. Because when they don't, there's always something that's a bit uncomfortable, or you like look at yourself in the mirror. Like I think there's so many times people buy things because they're on sale or because they're really popular, or the sales assistant is great at selling it to you in the shop, and then you get home and you try it on, you're like, I do love it, but on me, there's something that's just not quite right. So being able to make sure that things fit you correctly is great.
Yeah, I think it's incredible. Well done, Daisy.
Thanks.
The other thing I was going to ask you about, when you're in the beginning stages and you are building something in a bit of a vacuum, you talk about it with people, everyone gives you the right signs of acknowledgement and encouragement. Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
But it can be quite lonely.
Yeah.
And I think when you don't see traction and you're kind of building in a vacuum, that can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably where most people at the beginning kind of feel unsure of themselves, or I think that can be the hardest, taking those initial steps. So I'd love to hear from you about like how that felt for you when setting up both of your businesses, like the early stages when you're really not sure, but you kind of, there's a bit of you that knows, but there's just a lot of uncertainty. I'd love to hear how you navigated that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think you need to make sure that what you're building, you are really passionate about, and whether that's, and be honest to yourself about why you're passionate about it. I mean, obviously for me, it was about sustainability, but maybe you're driven by the financial side of it, or maybe you're driven by the impact that it's going to have, or whatever it is. You need to make sure you understand why you're building it so that when times get tough, you can be like, okay, this is why I'm doing it. And there's nothing wrong with whatever that real reason is. Like, just make sure you're laser focused on that. So you've always got that to fall back on and you're like, okay, well, this is the plan. I think in the early days, I think the biggest advice I can be is to reach out to people and ask for help. When things are really tough, and I've spoken to people and it kind of just explained what the challenges are. There's been a few people along the way who have just completely supported me and given me great advice, and that's always kept me going. And I think, you know, having those people that you can go to, particularly if you're on your own, if you haven't got a co-founder like me, are crucial, because there are going to be times which are really, really difficult. I think the other thing is just at the beginning, try to talk to people who aren't just your friends to see if it's a good idea. Because if you can tell someone that you work with, or maybe that you don't have, or reach out to people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's an amazing tool. Someone that you would, you know, your dream person that you'd like to have as an advisor. I think always reach out to them, because you'll always be surprised who actually is like, yeah, I'll go for a coffee, or I'll give you some time. And get their feedback, because your friends and family are always going to be supportive. And unless they've built a business, they might not understand what you're going through. And I found that quite alienating at the beginning, because I would be telling my family or my friends about things, and I could see their eyes kind of glaze over a bit, not in a rude way, but they just don't. If you haven't done it, you're like, oh, that must be really tough. Yeah. But they don't get it.
Yes. Yeah. And you want them to get it.
Yeah. And you're
so like, why don't you care?
Yeah, you don't understand how hard this is. So I think having other people who have been founders, or who are going through the same thing at the same time, is really helpful, because even if it's a completely different industry, you can be like, you know, fundraising's so tough. And it's good to have like just people you can go to for a bit, just to be like, help me get out of this hole.
Yeah, for sure. That's really good advice, actually. Not just for like building a business, but generally having a supportive network.
Yeah.
And taking the time to build that network. I've actually found through building the podcast that people are more receptive to meeting and offering their time if they think you have something of value to add. And actually you shouldn't be scared to reach out and say, you know, I'd love to talk to you about this, because you'll get more yeses than you think.
Yeah, you definitely do. And so I'm just trying to think, I'm probably going to forget some key people, but just people who right now come to the top of my mind. So when I did my first exhibition of Loom, it wasn't called Loom then, it was called Refashion, which was a few years ago. At the end of that first accelerator, there was Scott Staniland, who's like a sustainable fashion advocate and model, and I'd been following him on Instagram, and I really admired all the work that he did. He had come to that, and I got to meet him, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. He now knows what Loom is. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to message him on Instagram and just see if he'd like to be an advisor. And he's been an advisor ever since. And like, I got introduced to some other people, and I reached out to people on LinkedIn. So I think another one was like Stuart Trevor, who's the founder of All Saints. And I'd been like, oh, he would be a great mentor to have. And Pan Philippou, who was the former CEO of Diesel, and like people who I was like, oh, they're never going to speak to me. They're never going to be interested in what I'm doing. But I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to reach out anyway, because the worst thing is they just ignore me, and then I haven't lost anything, or they say no, and you know, that's fine too. And they've both come on as advisors as well. So I think dream big and reach out to the people that you think won't give you their time. And I think you'd be really surprised.
I love that. And also what a wonderful vote of confidence in you and Loom.
Yeah, exactly. And then it gives you so much more confidence, because then it becomes something bigger than you. Like you're building a movement and something that's going to have all of this like impact.
Yeah.
And so when you have a team of people on board and behind you, it then helps, because it's not about you anymore. It's about what you're building and how you're supporting the people within your team. So for me, the designers and everyone. So then it's helps with the anxiety too, because you're like, well, actually, it's not about me. I'm just like a vessel to kind of get this off the ground, which has helped me a lot.
What is next for Loom? Short term, long term?
So I think, for short term, we are now launching our B2B services. So we're now working with brands.
Awesome.
And taking in two different ways, either upcycling their unsold or damaged stock. So we have a collection with Oxfam that's launching this summer, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
But now we're starting to work with fashion brands too. And then also for brands, having a section for them on the app. So, for example, working with, I can't say any names right now, but working with brands and on taking their iconic styles and then creating like an upcycled design so that they can basically say you had, it's not Burberry we're working with, but as an example, a Burberry trench coat, you could go onto the app. Not yet, not yet.
That'll be a full circle moment.
yeah. If you're listening, I'll reach out to my old colleagues. But yeah, so you could go on to the app and then look at all the different upcycled designs that you could turn your Burberry trench coat into, and then get it done through Loom. So that's kind of the short term. And then longer term, so we are a bit more London-centric at the moment. We are all over the UK. So we want to become, the home of upcycling in the UK, and then we want to take it global. So we actually already have a wait list of designers and customers in New York and across Europe. So that's the next step.
That's so exciting.
Thank you.
For me, when I look back at like all of the experiences I've had, it feels quite nice to see how the dots connect. Sometimes like the clarity that you didn't have when something was going wrong and you're like, what is this all for? Like, I know people say that everything happens for a reason, but I can't see it.
Yeah.
I'd love to kind of understand from you if like the dots have connected now with hindsight. Now that the neon sign is back up in your house and like Loom is doing so well, do you look back and you're like, actually, it did all happen in the way it should have?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm trying to think of a concrete example to give you. Maybe because we spoke about it since the beginning of this episode, I struggled so much with like my personality for ages. And I was like, can I achieve all of the things that I want to, even though I am not the loudest person in the room? And now I have no doubt. So I think you go through things and you get so worked up about stuff. And I think it's so important to just trust the process. And obviously it's really hard when you're in it. And then when I look back at like the first business failing, like I learned so much from that. And if I hadn't done that, and if I hadn't made all of those mistakes, there's no way I would have got Loom to where it is now relatively. Well, I wouldn't been able to do it so quickly as I have done, or I would have made mistakes that maybe would have been too big for me to recover from. So I think now when things go wrong, I really try to take a second just to be like, oh my God, this is awful. But then I'd be okay, right, what can I learn from this? How do I make sure this doesn't happen again? And just try and take as many learnings as possible. So I think when I look back at things, I think the only thing I maybe have slight regrets on is that I didn't just start doing my own thing sooner. I think it took me a really long time to be like, oh, I'm actually going to do it now. And I had to get to a place where I was like, oh, well, there's nothing else that I should do now. And they do say sometimes you need something to like really kick you to like to start your own thing. But I wish I'd started that sooner, because then I could have started learning sooner.
Yeah. But there's no, perfect timing is a thing. You know,
but there's never a perfect time for anything. So,
agreed.
So if there was someone listening to this and they were like unsure, I'd be like, just do it, just start. Even if that small thing is just telling someone your idea, just to get over that first hurdle of putting it out there. You should definitely do it, because you'll always wish you did it sooner.
Daisy, I'm so inspired by you. I genuinely am. This just reinforced like why I have this podcast, is to speak to people like you who are just doing amazing things and are so authentic. And
and it's so, honestly, I get so much from podcasts like yours, listening to other people that I really admire. And it's so special to be able to get those insights into those kind of people and how they work. So thank you so much for having me on it, because it's an honor. I'm over the moon to be here. So thank you.
Daisy, thank you for coming and being a guest. Like, honestly, I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and so excited to see where Loom goes, to use Loom. I got the app and I'm going to be upcycling away.
How exciting.
And everyone should. Like, you should definitely be using Loom and going through your wardrobe and working out how you can repurpose your clothing.
I would love also to offer everyone listening a 10% discount code. If you use the code EveryMuse, then you'll get 10% off.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please do hit the follow button and leave a rating and review. It makes such a difference, and it personally just means so much to me. Thank you.